All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order strategic planning for Tuesday, January 19th. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. All right. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting. Could I get a second, please? Second by Alderman Witt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Unfinished business. We have PL 59-22 by Mayor Olean to authorize the city of Olean to pave Inwood Drive and Woodview Avenue for a total distance of 2,308.03 feet as requested by petition. This is a follow-up conversation that was requested by the developer, and at this point we do have, I believe, representation from the developer present. Before I'd like to welcome them. Could you just please introduce yourself for the minutes?
Yes, hello everybody, Mr. Mayor, all the aldermen. Thank you first of all for having me tonight. Attorney Roland Circoni on behalf of the developer and Pilgrim Village Baptist Church.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, sir. I will introduce this conversation, get things going here, turn it over to our Community Development Department, as well as Code Enforcement and DPW.
Hey everyone. Roland, I'm Carrie Cooper. As you may recall, we had met in the mayor's conference room some time ago, and I believe we've been working with our Code Enforcement Officer, Ryan Reed.
Yes.
This was previously discussed at another council meeting. I do believe Ryan has communicated that to you along with the information pertaining to the security agreement, and I do believe we're here tonight for you to seek some clarification for details in the document.
Yes. If I may, please. One of the things I went over the proposal of the council with my principals, and we had several questions. First of all, no one was allowing us to obtain permits until we put up the money for the paved roads. These construction projects, as it is, they can get started with a dirt road. And in fact, we've lost probably 5 months of prime building season, and there's not a lot left in the year. There's enough to get started, but if we don't get this project, commenced this year, we may have a problem keeping our investors interested for next year, and this would cost everyone, and especially the city of Olean, millions of dollars in tax dollars. So we do want to get started right away, and we don't see the necessity for having the road paved before we get our permits to start building the homes. The second thing is the proposal by the council was that we put up the entire cost in escrow, $1.327 million. And we just had several problems with that. One, we wondered why we were putting up the entire amount, especially since these roads are going to benefit many of the existing homeowners that have already had their lands developed and built on this property. Why should we have to pay for the entire project of the road when it benefits many other neighbors that are not our land and not our properties? The second thing to that, as I said, we'd like to get started before the road, do it with a dirt road. The second thing is, as far as our investment goes in tying up another $1.37 million, you requested that you're not going to release money until half the properties are built. Now, initially we had talked about building maybe 14, we expanded it to 19. As we enlarge our number now, we have an extra burden of building a larger number of homes before the money is released. When we build these homes that we're intending to sell, hopefully for $500,000 a home, it's probably going to cost us at least $250,000, but maybe $300,000 per home. So when we build 5 homes, we'll have $1.5 million already invested into that land, which we're not going to walk away from. So I would think that would be, at least 5 homes would be a good faith effort for the city to realize that they can commence building the road suitable with us, coming in and out and continuing to build the homes. Also, we're going to build a model home, and we'd like to get that done right away because we want to generate interest in this project this year. So we'd like to get the model home up right away. And we need these permits. We have to get the land cleared. There's much for us to do. So just to reiterate that, I guess we would like to put up less in the escrow account because one, it benefits the entire residences of that area, and two, we don't want to tie that much money up. Second, we'd like to get the permits right away so we can start building and get our model home up. As I said, and third, we don't want to have the contract where money is returned to us after half the homes are built, but at least 5, because as I said, when 5 are built plus the model homes, we'll have, he's already paid $500,000 in taxes, we'll have at least $2 million into this project. So that's certainly a good faith effort on our behalf to know that we're not walking away from it and the city's not going to be stuck with anything.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, clarification. I'll turn it back over to Gary Kerber.
If I could turn it over to Ryan to address some of the.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I was going as far as the dirt road and what we request and require. Ryan, are you going to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so as far as the permit side goes, we can start issuing building permits, one, when we know that there is going to be a road there. So as soon as the council commits to, yes, we're gonna put a road in, then we know that eventually there will be a fire apparatus road, as was discussed last time. I can cut the permits once I receive the blueprints for the house. I can't cut 19 permits at one time on would-be's and what-ifs. As I get the blueprints, so even if I get the blueprint for the first model home, that will be the first permit that rolls out the door. But like I said, the 2 hang-ups right now is, one, to secure that we know we're gonna have that fire apparatus road, and then 2, once the stamp plans are submitted, as they're submitted, we can cut permits for those.
So I'm still a little bit unsure. I hear what you're saying as far as what your needs are to cut permits, right? You need blueprints, and you need authorization. You need the commitment from the city council to put in the road, right? Now, with that being said, could you follow up, because there was some discussion we had last time on what type of road is suitable. This gentleman is saying, listen, we just need a dirt road. But what I thought we discussed last time is, you said from a safety standpoint, from fire or response standpoint, you've got to have a road that will be adequate to handle the fire truck or the emergency vehicle to respond, and that is, I forget what you called it, what type of road?
Fire apparatus road.
A fire apparatus road,
Correct.
right? So what type of investment is that? Are we talking about? Is that a dirt road or no?
No,
No.
not in the definition. However, if we're cutting permits as they go, and then it would be based on whatever number you guys decide, okay, this is where we're gonna put the road in, that's where we discussed that, okay, your best bet would be to put the binder down, and then once all the houses are in, now we can support it, now we have people living out there, go ahead and finish out the roadway.
Right. Okay.
But the rest of the terms, that's why I had just Roland speak to you guys, because I'm out when it comes to terms.
Right. Okay. Are there other questions from any of the aldermen? Alderman Witt?
Yeah, this is for probably Jack Clark. In the past, when we've done redevelopments, like Stardust Lane or Seneca Heights, were they required to put money in the escrow, or were they required to just put the road that Ryan just described with the binder not totally finished? Sorry.
I would be talking with recollection that is unclear for sure. I believe that there was escrow, that work would be done, I'm not sure of that.
Okay, I was just curious. Thanks.
Okay. Alderman Robinson?
I'm just curious, maybe this question is for fire chief, on or maybe for codes, the closest fire hydrant to the development area. I know you mentioned the fire apparatus road. Is that considered just the binder? This road,
Yes, I think.
by definition?
I think the binder, because of the weight of our vehicles, is what would have to meet the definition.
So what's the closest distance of a fire hydrant from this area where they'd be starting construction and the average hose length?
Yeah,
Which are hydrants.
Is already hydrants up there?
Okay. Other questions? Alderman Witt?
This is just a follow-up. If we say, where we stopped our street, the last time we did it, I can't remember if it's not Inwood, it's Woodview or something. We stopped it, the two people that built homes. From that point to where the first home is going up, can we just do that portion and then see how it goes? And then, because I'm assuming you're not talking about putting the binder or the road, the street, all the way around where the development's gonna go and then loop around back to where Inwood is.
I'm only concerned where the houses are. So.
The one house, the model house.
Correct. Where, yeah, if the house is gone. That's all I'm concerned about getting to. If there's a forest fire beyond that, so be it.
Yeah.
But I guess that would be a question for Dave Crandall or somebody like that, is it feasible to do it that way?
No, I was just curious because the last two people that built up there, the road only extended just past their houses. There's no further. So if they're only gonna start with one model home, say this year, can we just do from the stop of the pavement where it is now to where that house is gonna be? Is that something that we could do instead of doing the whole project?
I don't see why not.
I apologize, I did not hear that. I did not hear the answer.
I don't see why that would be an issue. If we wanted to pay it as the projects were done.
Exactly, that's what we're looking, so not all our money is tied up and held in escrow for such a long time. As I said, plus there's an existing road there already, so we're just adding on a little bit
Yeah.
to some of the other homes that have already been built in that area. So if we could do it in that piecemeal fashion, we certainly wouldn't have to put up the 1.3 million. And again, that's the entire cost of the project, which benefits already existing neighbors and homes that are already built there. So it should be our responsibility anyways.
I guess I have a question. So the initial request was that you guys would front all the money for it, and then we would obviously release a portion, our share of it back to you upon completion of the project. I guess my thought is that how is it really any different if for some reason the clause that would have been triggered, that would have resulted in us not releasing part of the escrow back to you, if that were to be triggered, but how do I want to put this? I mean, we wouldn't be any under if we did it a different way and said, we're not going to, you're going to pay for the paving as it happens, and then we'll agree to finish it, right? When it's done, if the whole project fell through, I'm not doing a very good job because I really didn't think about this. If the whole project fell through, we just didn't finish the road, right? Does that make sense? You're looking at me like it doesn't.
Because I'm thinking about this as well, Paul. What we received was not a proposal. It wasn't to authorize us to build out a road in piecemeal. The PL that's before us is to authorize the pavement of 2,300 feet of road. So if you want to change that distance and do it in a more piecemeal fashion, I think I'm fine with that. If you wanna do it for the first 5 houses that you build, or I don't know. The PL that we're looking at is the authorization for the city to pave 2,300 feet. The cost of that is $1.3 million. So there's gotta be a way for all of us to come to terms that will ultimately, we're sitting here responsible to protect the city of Olean. And obviously your job is to protect your client, and I respect that. So there's gotta be some middle ground, that obviously we want that development, absolutely. But at the same time, we've got to also protect the rest of Olean too. So, I think we just need to come up with what that compromise is. You said just remind me, you said the total project is 19 homes, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
John, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Alderman Webb?
And maybe Carrie can answer this. Whenever we've done, a development in the past, the city pays a third and the people that are living on that street pay. I know when my husband bought his home out on Stardust, he had to pay for so many years for Gemini and Stardust. When does that kick in? After the developer is paid or after the city? I mean, somewhere along the line, because I had a call from one of the residents that live up on Inwood, and she asked me, so is the developer paying for these streets? Because we had to pay for the streets. So she's just curious why we're talking in terms of the developer paying for everything, and then we get reimbursed our third. Does that make sense? Because in the past, that's how we used to do it. People that lived there paid so much a year towards that street. The 2 people that just finished building in the last 5-6 years, they are just about done paying for this street. So how does that work?
Usually, once the project is completed, then the total bills tallied up, is divided amongst the property owners, and then city tax bill, then it becomes a special tax, or a special franchise on that tax bill. That's when the billing normally kicks in for that.
Okay, so in the past, the contractor hasn't come up with the full amount to put in escrow to foot the bill. I guess I'm trying to figure out why this is different.
Yeah, I can.
If the homeowner's paying, why are we paying as well, I
Well,
guess?
that's what one of my constituents called and asked, because she had heard.
Yeah,
And
with
I
the
said-
subdivision like this and the creation thereof, it was previously done that way. Mr. Bradley did indeed, front that money, and from my knowledge, it was put into escrow. And, it was, it's a 2/3 and a third from what I have understood, based on the past practice that was really done to get the road permits.
Right.
In
So it's
that
in
force
escrow,
bill.
but then the contractor gets it back as people pay?
I don't know that, to that degree.
Because I know that's what we did for 5 years, we had to pay off.
Yeah, I know,
Was it yours done by a developer, or was it done, who was the developer?
Oh, it would have been in the 70s, I don't know. if it
In the
was
1970s?
Yeah.
yeah, and the one I'm familiar with was the 2010 paving project. And the property owners were billed for, I think it was amortized out, an annual payment for, I do believe, 10 years.
Yeah.
So, at what point that kicked in, was 2000.
Yeah, that's.
At least
those are the
remember
folks
that.
I'm talking about. Yeah, because they actually came to a meeting back then and asked what the policy was, because they didn't understand why they had to pay. And we told them, this is the city's policy, you pay.
It's in our
towards your
zoning, it's in
portion.
our ordinance.
Yeah, and it's still in effect, the last I knew.
Yep.
So,
And it should be in
like-
the subdivision regulation,
Section 22-102.
22-102.
So I guess what I'm trying to understand, are we talking about if the developer pays 2/3 and we have a third, that it gets passed down to the properties after they're
The
paid
third
or
that we
something?
pay.
Is that what this is?
I think
Yeah,
that's.
then the third that we pay as a city gets taxed, gets put on our tax roll.
I mean, that's true. Do we know that that's true right
That's
now?
how it's worked for years.
I mean, it must be in the law, right? So we can read it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
So just to help us understand again what your request is. So for codes to do their thing, they've got to get the city council to commit, and for us to commit, we need a security agreement clarification, whatever it is, security agreement. We need a security agreement between the two parties that everyone is on board with. So you're asking for 5 homes plus the model home?
I'm saying that would be sufficient to show that we have the good faith investment. Like I said, with what we paid in taxes, we'll be in an investment over $2 million at that point. I suppose maybe we actually need to go out and see and identify exactly the amount of road we would need to have the binder put up to develop those amount of homes. Also, it being just the binder, I suppose the cost would be less at this point in time as well, that would have to be put up. So I would need to know that as well. That's going to affect the cost.
That could be a different way to look at it, right? If you're looking at developing 5 homes first with the model home, and again, change the PL that's before us to do less road development. I mean, I think that's one way to go to conserve costs that we would require in escrow. I think that's one option.
Listen, we don't want to be tedious to the council either, come back in and every road we're building on, we say, okay, improve this. But I think it's probably prudent that I go out with Brian or whoever, and maybe bring our civil engineer as well, and identify, and our contractor or builder, and identify the exact amount of road we need, and then could identify what the cost of a binder would be for that road. We could put up our reasonable share and at least get you permits. We just get your approval, we'll have the blueprints out, so we can get moving this year, because we don't want to let this year go by.
Yeah. Now, is that something that we would do? Is that something that we would consider is just to build the binder? I don't see why not, but is there anything in our code that says that we would not want to consider that? Is that a viable option?
I don't see why I wouldn't handle the traffic flow for the fire trucks.
Okay.
Certainly, it would be acceptable from an engineering standpoint, yes.
Okay.
Unless you have anything to add.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add to that is you do have the power within that subdivision to ask for letter of line of credit. So if this does go south, then we can at least finish out the road for the residents that are now there.
That's my concern.
So I hate for somebody to buy a $500,000 house and now they're just driving on bike.
So that's exactly the concern. I think that needs to be, did you hear that?
What did he say?
I
didn't
To
hear.
finish it.
You repeat it, I appreciate it.
Brian, can you speak up a little bit, please?
I would ask for a letter of line of credit. That way it does protect the city. If we just put down the binder, and God forbid, and this project goes south, we can at least finish out those 5 houses with a top coat. I mean, if somebody's paying $500,000 for a house, they should at least get a completed road.
Right, so the concern there, sir, is, okay, so if we were to just move forward with the binder, you build the 5 homes, you sell the 5 homes, we've got residents in those 5 homes, and the rest of the project doesn't, falls through. Now we've got, residents that have paid top dollar for these homes on a street that's just a binder. And so the request in our, I guess that is allowable in our code is to request a line of credit that would allow us to complete that.
That sounds very reasonable to me, and I understand that concern, and that's legitimate. So I don't have a problem doing that. I'll take that back to my principles, but I would recommend that.
Okay.
Just one comment on that.
Yep.
I'd be curious to know what your time frame is. If you put binder down, it's not designed to be the final top coat. So it can't sit there forever like that. It's not designed to, ideally, I'm just gonna put a top coat on it.
basically for those 5 homes. So the concern there is, you know, a binder is a temporary usage, it's not intended to be there for multiple years at a time. You know, what would be the approximate time frame for those 5 starter properties, if you will, or whatever you would refer to them as?
That's a very good question that I do not have the answer for myself. I could relay that to you tomorrow.
Okay, very
So,
good.
John, I'd like to get in here a little bit. When we talk binder, are we talking an asphalt type of material or just stone?
I would, yeah.
Yes.
So, and I understand that, but I can't understand why you would put an asphalt layer down while you're building anything. There's no way you're gonna go re-top that after construction. I just don't see it.
Well, it does get done, they'll have to go with a broom and wash it and then put a tack coat on. But there's work involved, yes.
And
They have to dress it up.
yeah, we did that at the hotel project, and I mean, that was heavy weight coming in and out.
Okay.
And we did it with base the entire way, and then they topped it.
They might have to true it level if it's settled.
And how our standards are for our city streets, it'll be strong enough to hold that.
Okay.
But how our specs are and how it's all built.
Anything else from you, sir?
No, that would be it, other than who should I contact tomorrow? Brian or Ryan or someone else?
What, you want to have him send me the, why don't you type up the security agreement, forward it to myself, and then I'll forward it to the mayor for distribution.
I think he's talking about having someone go measure and the engineering, he was talking about maybe
And then,
someone.
as far as the engineering side and stuff like that, yeah, just reach out to my cell phone, I'll meet your engineer up there sometime.
So Ryan Reed.
Brian, what is your cell phone again, please?
716-307-0395.
0395?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, any other questions before we, Alderman Witt?
Yeah, I think tonight, John, just asking the questions that we've asked, we've made more progress than the whole last meeting. And I just think we, as a city, don't want to miss out on this opportunity for development, you know? I think I pointed out last time, the only place to buy a new home is in the town of Allegheny or the town of Olean. I think we want to be part of that development.
And I think it comes with compromise, and whatever makes sense. We know development costs a lot of money, and our job too is to protect the city. So if we can come to some sort of compromise agreement that works for both sides, I think that's just what Olean needs. So any other questions, comments? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate the time, everyone. Have a nice evening.
All right, very good, thank you. Okay, we have no referrals for consideration and no committee reports. I'll make a motion to adjourn strategic planning. Could I get a second, please?
So second.
Second by Alderman Gonzalez, all in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carried, we're adjourned.
Can I make a comment just generally out of session? Why the hell are we negotiating stuff like this in open forum? Why isn't this all being done like this, and then we're trying to hash this all out like on camera, and I'm like, what are we doing? I mean, this should all be behind closed doors, and then present it to the council. This is what we think is the best deal. I don't wanna sit here with this guy and like, what about that? Like, I'm not a negotiator, I don't know what the hell we're talking about. I'm just trying to do the best thing for the city.
A second.
Am I wrong?
Statement.
Like, what the hell are we doing?
I'm with you.
Sorry.
Okay, Linda, do you want to? Finance?
Jack has to
Oh, that's right, I'm sorry, Linda, all right.
That's okay.
Okay, we got Jack for another half hour, so which one? Well, they're probably all involving Jack, but maybe this one, I don't know, which one do we want to do? They're probably both involving Jack. Does Jack need to be present for the discussion about outside legal counsel?
No.
No. Okay. Then let's go to the CRP. All right, Tuesday, July 19th, 2022. Let the record show that all aldermen are present with the exception of Alderman Anastasia. We don't have any unfinished business, but we do have an ongoing discussion of the Civilian Review Board. And so we received back some feedback from both our city attorney as well as our labor attorney, who have reviewed the latest proposal. And really the major takeaway or change, if you will, proposed change from a legal standpoint was to be very cautious with the way we write the policy of appointing members to the CRP. So as a reminder, we currently have a strong mayor, weak council form of government, and so to put excessive regulation or stipulations on who the mayor can or cannot appoint to a board is overstepping that power. The council has the power to confirm the mayor's appointments, and that's it. Now, we are allowed, as our labor attorney said, some things are not challengeable in court per se. It's just kind of the law. 18 years old, or requiring someone to be a city of Olean resident, those sorts of things. But to go beyond that, other communities that put requirements in place or limitations on who can be appointed, such as, you could not appoint ex-police officers, that circumvents or usurps that power. And so it was a recommendation to remove those sorts of requirements. So that was a major one that was removed out of this draft. And then our city attorney also made the recommendation to add under appointment of members, number 5, which states a CRP member may be removed or suspended from the board with or without cause by the mayor with the consent of a majority of the common council. And so Jack and I were talking ahead of time. Again, this is something that has been kind of, the framework has been laid out by Alderman Robinson, Alderman Panis, myself as kind of the mediator or secretary on this, if you will. And we want to try to get this moving along in real time here. I distributed this to everyone earlier. I distributed the feedback from the labor attorney, and at this time, I'll open it up for any public comments or questions.
Okay, I guess I'll start.
Alderman Robinson?
Thank you. I'm fine with the addition that the city attorney suggested. I mean, at this point, having that clause in there isn't going to really make much of a difference as long as the council can have the ability to have input on that. As far as the wording and the wording of selecting, the selection process and what was similar to Geneva and some of the other cities. My only question is we paid a lawyer, we asked if this would be worded or in a legalized term. Instead of writing us back what we shouldn't say, why didn't we just have someone write it to where we want it and then it'd be done? To me, that's still baffling. Isn't that what we pay a lawyer for? So it's kind of, does he still get his full check? Or do we get to say, well, we got half the work, so we get half a check? So other than that, I say the way it's written, with what we've omitted, I'm in agreement with it.
I agree with Vernon. I think we've spent a lot of time on this, and you guys put a lot of work into this. And I think if we have a passable draft that the lawyers are signing off on, get it done.
Alderman Witt?
I agree, and I think, we have put a lot of time in it, and a lot of questions have been asked and answered. And I think the other thing to keep in mind moving forward, if something needs to be amended or changed, we always have the ability to do that, or to ask the mayor, if we could adjust something. So that's the norm. So I'm good with it.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, any comments?
No, we've been working on it a long time. I think, you asked the labor attorney for opinions on this, and he gave opinions. You asked the city attorney for opinions on this, he's given his opinions. And I'm glad to see that the council has taken their advice, and we can get this behind us.
All right. Anyone else? All right, very good. So, this still is just a draft, okay? This is the working draft, but so there's no formal vote here tonight. But based on our general consensus, what I would like to do is next sit down with Jack Hart and just get this into that legalized form for a proper proposal or resolution, okay? And hopefully be able to turn this around within a week or two. Is that doable, Jack, do you think? We can kind of cross the T's and dot the I's and make sure everything is good to go.
And maybe, there might be some suggested changes that we could evolve over the course of a couple of weeks, but I don't see a problem.
Okay, yeah, and that was another thing too that Jack and I discussed were more of, I kind of said what we've prepared here is really that 5,000 foot view. From a legal standpoint, maybe the way we've worded something here, Jack might have a little bit different of a recommendation, but what we want is the context that is here, we're all on board with, and we would like this prepared in that proper PL resolution format. Okay? All right, Alderman Robinson.
I have a question, because I thought we were done pulling and revising and everything. The labor attorney gave a suggestion, our city attorney gave a suggestion, both were inputted into here, so I don't understand what else would need to be revised, so to me it just seems like it's gonna be another month or two before something comes through. That's just my input.
So, Jack, do you want to make a comment on kind of what you caught here, or you want me to refer to your email? Just that we may have, we've referred to a certain section of the CBA, and maybe we're referring to the wrong section, or not?
I was more concerned, moving to the point.
Thank you.
There's a clause that I had not previously seen that brought in the CBA to, in some manner, making reference to a citation that does not appear to have any relationship to what the board is going to be doing. So what I was anxious about was make sure that we did not go to the transition to the next stage to call for a hearing. Because if that was happening tonight, I was afraid that we would not be able to change the law to correct it if we needed correction. I'm not saying I completely understood what that was all about, perhaps it's fine, but I did not understand it. I was concerned that we were going to establish a date for a public hearing.
Okay, no, we're not establishing a date for public hearing at this point. Again, this is just that working draft, and I want to, again, we're not looking to change things, but we are looking to make sure that we have it in a proper format here, and if we can get that on the agenda within the next week or two, that's what I would like to see. So, all right.
I wanted to add one more thing. The section that you're referring to about the CBA, the section, that particular section, at one point you were referring to it as the disciplinary matrix that came from the Police Reform Committee. That was the term that was given to the committee, that was the term that was used. After we had done, I don't know, over a dozen revisions, we later find out that there was no such thing as a disciplinary matrix, and it was actually in the notes from either yourself or the labor attorney that section was called 5.5.9 of the CBA disciplinary matters. So that's how that line ended up getting in there. So if you can't find it in your notes, I'll eventually find it in mine, and then we can figure out what that area is supposed to be. But I just wanted to give you a head start so we can find out where that information came from and what it is.
Okay. Maybe what we could try to do, Alderman Robinson, is have maybe you, me, and maybe schedule some time to sit down with Jack for him to just explain what his, again, he just sent me an email late about that section, and maybe we can just talk about that. Okay? Okay.
OT.
All right. Very good. Thank you all. And thank you to Alderman Panis and Alderman Robinson, and the mayor for your support on this process. So do we have committee reports, Tiffany? All right, so I'm going to make a motion to adjourn committee of the whole. Can I get a second? Second by Alderman Witt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned from that.
Yep, so I'll call to order city operations for Tuesday, July 19th. Let the record show that all committee members are present with the exception of Alderman Anastasia, who is absent. We have no unfinished business. I have no minutes to approve. New referrals for consideration is PL 77-22 by Mayor Alio to enact a local law adopting written policies and procedures for the use of video conferencing. Mayor.
Yes, excuse me. As you know, there's been changes in the way that we can do video conferencing that. So this just lays it out that we have a policy on it that we can follow for. Right now, the governor has extended the use of video conferencing, but if she does not extend it again, then this will give us a policy to go by.
Okay. Any comments or questions? So I've asked Tiffany to do some homework on what this requirement under the New York Municipal Home Rule Law states. So you know, it has multiple different facets to it. First and foremost, it identifies that no local laws shall be passed until it has been in its final form and either A, upon the desks or tables of the members at least 7 calendar days, exclusive of Sunday, prior to its final passage. So it is our responsibility for us to have some law, okay? It has to be in its final form. Things just can't appear at the last minute, you know, when it comes to any sort of local law. It has to be in its final form 7 days prior, or it can be mailed to each of them, etc. A question I have about that, and I don't know, something that we'll have to look into maybe a little further are we able to make modifications to the law on the fly? If we needed to amend something, or would that be changing the final form of that local law?
If you change this legislation, then you have to wait 7 days. I'll make the changes, submit them to all of you, and then it's another 7-day period before we can do the public hearing, which.
How long is the state of emergency extended for? Like right now?
I think it's till, please don't quote me, I think it's till August right now.
It's like the
August 13th?
So we are up against it. It's not like it's, you know, end of the year.
It's been 30-day periods
Yeah.
every month.
So, John, what
Yeah, so if we are, it's cracking down on just transparency, on ensuring that we're following open meeting rules, and maintaining a transparent government. So, you know, for any local law, we've got to make sure that's published 7 days in advance. Just like with our agenda, we've got to make sure that the agenda, anything we talk about in a given evening is properly stated at least 24 hours in advance notice. When it comes time to video conferencing, we have to go back to stating, and maybe Tiffany, you can help me out on this, but when we join through video conferencing, once the state of emergency falls, we have to go back, if you know you're going to be out of town, you have to identify that. How early do you have to note that?
It has to go out with the agenda Friday by 4 o'clock when they go out,
Okay.
as well as the exact location. Your location has to be open to the public. And if you do not pass this legislation, video conferencing is not allowed in meetings,
All right.
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But
So
that's basically what we did before anyway.
it's what we
right?
did.
It's not, okay,
It's what we did before.
pre-COVID, we're just making it official.
Right. When I would go overseas, I would have to sit in, I would have to identify the hotel lobby in Germany that I was sitting in, and, you know, it's open to the public, so if anybody wanted to join, and things like that.
An example would be where Sonia is right now, had this, then the governor's extension had not been in, she would have had to let people know where she was, or make it available if somebody were to show up there.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So when we're home, we have to make home available for people to come hang out.
So that's a good question.
Because I don't like that idea.
Is home acceptable, or does it have to be in an actual public place?
That is a good question. Yeah.
Do you just have to leave your front door unlocked?
I don't think that was addressed, just
Yeah.
that.
Really? Nobody asked that question?
No.
So, because of COVID, if you're home because you have COVID, you
That's
want
a-
the public in.
No, so that's, so in their, they do allow the exception that if all of a sudden you were to test positive. So in extreme circumstances, is it extreme circumstances or something to that effect?
Yes,
You're
illness,
allowed,
disability, or,
yeah, you're allowed to,
yeah.
yeah.
So if I
So
just
basically,
have
you
COVID,
want that to be the case, or home needs to be a public place. That's what I'm guessing.
Well, it doesn't have to be public per se, like, you don't have to let people in to use the bathroom, I just think you have to publish where it is, right? It has to be publicly disclosed at where your location is, so when Kevin Bartholomew shows up at, you know, Linda's house. to
I don't
watch-
know.
She has
I
to
mean,
let
this is an
them-
open, it's an open meeting.
Yeah,
we'd be on the board for that.
right.
Yeah, you have to
So I
let
think
them
you've
in.
got to, I mean, my understanding is that, yeah, you would have to let members of the public in.
That's okay.
I like
We
that
can-
idea, I
we
think
can
that's,
get
I think that's cool.
We can get some further clarification on this, but, any other comments or questions on this?
Get us here.
All right, I'll go ahead and make them, Paul?
Say it. You're
Sorry, Dave.
You wanna go ahead?
Sorry.
What are we doing? Are we postponing this, or are we just gonna approve it? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve, can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Witt, all in favor? Aye, any opposed? Sorry? Oh, that was, okay, sorry, yep. Okay, so it is approved and will be referred to a future, regular meeting,
Public hearing, yes.
public hearing, yeah. Okay, moving on, we have a discussion on outside legal counsel. Who's got the
This would be
ball?
Ryan and Carrie.
Okay.
So with Carrie and myself, we put out an RFP seeking outside legal counsel specifically for code enforcement matters. And the RFP comes back on the 22nd. This is to help us with going towards primarily banks to start with, and then new laws that have come into place as recent as a month ago that to help against problem properties, and i.e. landlords. We feel like the best way to do it is with outside legal counsel that can specialize in that.
the sounds of it because, you know, I'd like to see some increased code crackdowns on things. So if this helps us get there, I'm for it.
Yeah, the potential here is to, what outside counsel is to, put the banks that we deal with, over and over again, they would be, outside counsel would be able to, when the fines are set, they would be able to, basically negotiate with them, to, get their fines paid and get the properties taken care of. So this gives us that option. Ryan attended NICOM in Syracuse, and this was a topic of discussion there. And, this is something that the grant, we've been getting the list grant.
Yeah, so, as you may recall, there was list 1.0 and 2.0, and in the second round, I had allocated, it was a total of $10,000, and I coined it the revolving revival fund, if that rings a bell with anyone. So Ryan utilizes those funds and then recoups them, on different tasks, when those properties come up now. So that's how we would start this, seed money, is really with that fund. And it was, one of the goals outlined in that funding source is that you could, that's something you could utilize it for with outside legal counsel, and we would recoup it. And then Ryan could also explain better how you would recoup, really.
So right now, what we have, that kind of gave us this idea is we've been researching it through the last 2 grants, and it just never came to fruition. But after reaching out to a couple attorneys, some of them said they were interested. We put together this RFP because we have 2 bank properties right now. If we could prosecute them to the full extent, the fines total well into the 6 figures right now. So then, after attending NICOM, hearing what Troy, Albany, Niagara Falls are doing, they're not actually prosecuting and negotiating before they even get to there, but they said, yes, you need that clout of a lawyer behind you, otherwise you're just bluffing. And Troy and Albany have even went so far as to team up, and they did 18 properties through one bank, and I think it was like $686,000 is what they cleared on that. So that gave us real hope. That's why we put together this RFP. And then, like I said, you have a slew of new laws that just came into place back in 2016 is when it's kicked off. And you're talking about things from forcing banks to go faster on the foreclosure. Well, that's got to be done with a legal notice. You're talking about Article 19A, to where the city can actually take possession of a residential property, and now they're putting forward 19C, to where we can take possession of a commercial property and dispose of it as we see fit. You're also talking about now they're putting together a receivership law, which would actually give the city power to take over a problem landlord's property, appoint a receiver, the receiver does the repairs, and then from there, we move forward with either the city disposing of the property or the landlord making it whole. So there's a lot of laws out there that goes well beyond our local ordinances that we feel like we need somebody specialized in that field that knows how to handle that.
So when the RFPs come back, we will bring that forth to the common council for approval.
Good idea.
Yeah, Alderman Crawford, go ahead.
Just one quick question. So is that scope of, I know like the scope of prosecuting, people that have been arrested falls under the scope of the city attorney. Does this sort of thing not fall under the scope of the city attorney?
Well, as you know, municipal law means a lot of things, not just writing law and stuff like that anymore. So all these municipalities are subbing this part of it out to them because there is, like I said, from up into the 2000s, yes, municipal law was just writing laws defending the city. But now between labor relations that we hire out for, suits against the city that we have to hire out for, municipal law is just grown into now this big monster with multiple legs on it. So that's where we feel that we can recoup 2016 on, if I were to guess, there's 32 new state laws aimed at problem properties.
We're hoping to get, excuse me, we want to get somebody who is well versed in this. And, yes, our city attorney is well versed in a lot of different matters, but this is not one of them.
Yeah, Alderman Witt.
So Ryan, and Carrie, do you know of anyone local that's versed well in properties and dealing with banks? I know this has been a long time issue that the city's been having to deal with.
No, so, I mean, we have gone online, we've done research, so we've released the RFP, so it'll go out statewide, and we've advertised it locally, so if there is, we hope to get a response.
Okay, so it might be something.
There very well could be someone out there, once they read the RFP, the criteria and the specifications for really what it is we're trying. I would assume that attorney would say, hey, I'm hungry for that kind of work, or, no, thank you. So I know, Mayor, when was it, the
21st.
Okay. Yep, so, and then that committee will review and report.
Alderman Robinson.
Thank you. Ron, just a quick question. I know there's a nearby city that has an ordinance where, if you have, say, drug activity in a home and they're a frequent flyer or whatever, that landlord or homeowner can be held accountable. Did the state come out with anything like that or in these new laws or?
We were close.
Okay.
About 2018, they were gonna come out with a law that basically set a point standard. You get so many points for a police being there within a year time period, overdose. And the state was looking at doing it, and then the ACLU got involved, and that's where it back. It got challenged in several other states.
Do you?
That's
do
why I
you know
didn't send
of
it to you guys, as soon as the ACLU got involved, I'm like, yeah, we should probably stay away from that one.
Okay.
But that you're gonna have that receivership, if that passes, that's gonna be huge.
Okay.
So Ryan, is it still where, because I know a few years back, if a landlord had someone that was charged with selling or buying drugs, and then that person rented again to that person, wasn't there something in the law that you could enforce something that would make it illegal for him to
What?
rent to that same person?
What other municipalities have found is the bar is set too high. You have to prove that the landlord knowingly and intentionally benefited from the sale of that.
If the rent's paid, would that count?
Uh,
If the rent's paid, that'd count.
Anyone have anything else? Any other questions? Okay, obviously just a discussion item, so nothing to vote on. We look forward to hearing how the RFP comes back. Thank you, guys. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve committee reports. Can I have a second, please? Seconded by Alderman Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, before we adjourn, any other city ops related issues? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second, please? Seconded by Alderman McCall. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Bye.
Okay, finally, yes. Let the record show that all are in attendance except for Alderman Anastasia. Approval of the minutes, I don't believe we have any. Finance and bills, does anybody have any questions with our monthly bills? To point, I just have two comments. On page 3, there was a list of lawn service and cleanup debris, things like that. My question is, I know that we can put a lien on their taxes for the lawn. Can we also for the cleanup? Because I see the one cleanup here was $572.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ryan.
In short answer, yes.
Okay.
Any property maintenance issues that violate the property maintenance code or the property maintenance code in our ordinance is actually seen as a tax per the opinion out of Monroe County Court. So yes, anything and everything gets leaned.
Okay, thank you. And then the other one, I just want to thank our for the city's major projects and the other for the individuals that are getting reimbursed. That makes it a little more clear. Did anyone else have any questions about that? I just think it makes more sense the way that we're doing it now. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Any other questions? Seeing none?
Actually, Linda, I do have something quick.
Sure, Alderman
Sorry.
Crawford.
Thank you. Just for the record, we do have minutes to approve, don't we, Tiffany?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, from June 21st.
Okay. Then I'll make that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Crawford, all in favor?